Shalom. I am Rabbi Nathan Davidovich, speaking to you on behalf of webyeshiva.org, speaking to you from Efrat, Israel. This week's Torah reading is Parsha Pinchas. And there's an interesting conversation that takes place in this Parsha between Moses and God. And as we all know, Moses is reaching the end of his life, and it's time to find a successor. So we're going to talk about the qualities of a leader, the qualities of leadership, and how we can apply that to our own lives. Because when you think about it, we all have some leadership responsibilities. On a lower level, it's ourselves, our individuals as leaders, first of all, of ourselves, to lead ourselves the right way. Secondly, leaders of our family. And you go from there, leaders of a community, leaders of a city, of a state, of a country. So all of these leadership positions need to know what it means to be a leader. So the parsha begins as follows when it talks about this. It says, "Vaydaber Moshe el Hashem lemer." Moses said to God, "Yivkod Hashem Elokei haruchos l'chol basar ish al ha'eda." He says, "Let you, Hashem, who's the source of all breath, appoint somebody to take over the community." And then he says, Moses says as follows, "Asher yetzei lifneihem," who will go out before them, "Vasher yavo lifneihem," and will come in before them, "Vasher yaviim," and who will take them out. You'll see Vasher Yavim, he will take them out, bring them in. Adas Hashem Katson Asher Ein Lahem Roeh. This is an interesting thing. He said, who will lead them in all matters and will bring them out, and so the community will follow them, so that the community of God shall not be like sheep that have no shepherd. It's a very strange language. Shall not be like sheep that have no shepherd. And the Rabbi Yaakov, the Maggid of Vilna, as brought by Rabbi Shia Twersky of blessed memory, notes that for the sake of brevity, it would have been much easier to read, "Don't let the assembly of God be like sheep without a shepherd." Why this extra word of taking them out and going in? And Rabbi Yaakov gave an interesting explanation about what a shepherd is. And he basically said, you have a couple of different kinds of shepherds. You have a shepherd who is hired to take care of somebody else's sheep, somebody else's flock, and that shepherd is interested in doing a good job so that he'll be paid properly and get more work. Then you have the shepherd who has his own flock, and he's interested in taking care of the flock so that he can make a healthy profit, make a living from shepherding the flock. But the Maggid of Vilna says, what is missing is in these kinds of shepherds, it doesn't say that anybody's interested in the welfare of the sheep. The shepherds are leaders of the sheep, but they're not interested in the welfare of the sheep. They're interested in their own welfare. So too, oftentimes leaders who lack humility, who lack the ability to sacrifice and look out for the good of others rather than themselves. That's not the kind of shepherd that we want. And he tells, we know first of all about Moses. Moses is referred to as the humblest of all men, of all people. In fact, there's once a story about Moshe Rabbeinu where there was a lost little lamb that wandered off, and he ran after it, and the little lamb was tired from running. Moses picked the lamb up in his hands and carried him back to the flock. Here's the leader of the whole community of Israel, the person through whom God gave the Torah, and he's carrying a little lamb. There's a story of the Chofetz Chaim. The Chofetz Chaim was once visited by a student who was very ill. And the student came to him and said, "Rabbi, give me a blessing that I should be well." And he says, "I can't, but I will send you to somebody who can give you a blessing. But you have to promise me that you will not reveal what happened to you all of your life." And this person was really almost on a deathbed. But he went to this rabbi that Chofetz Chaim told him to go to, and the rabbi, in fact, gave him a blessing. And he, in fact, was healed of his illness. He was healed of what could have been a terminal illness. And time went on, and he was about to get married, and he told his wife, he said, I was fortunate to survive a terrible illness that could have cost me my life. But he didn't go into any details. As time went on, the sister of his wife came to the wife. Her husband was very sick, and said, "I know that your husband had some miraculous cure. Can you find out what it was?" So his wife pressed him to see what happened. And he first resisted, then he could no longer resist. He said, I promised I wouldn't say this, but okay, here's what happened. He tells her the story. Shortly after that, he himself falls ill. He goes back to the Chofetz Chaim. At this time, the Chofetz Chaim is an old man, very frail. And he asks him for a blessing. The Chofetz Chaim says, "I'm sorry, I can't do anything for you now. When you first came to me, I was a young man, and I fasted and prayed for 40 days for your welfare. And God answered my prayers. But now I'm too weak and old. I can't do that." That was the quality exemplified by Moses, exemplified by the Chofetz Chaim, where they thought only about somebody else, not themselves. Now Rashi, the great commentator on the Torah, says what it means. He says you shouldn't be like the way of kings of the world who sit in their houses and send out other people to fight their wars. The next sentence says that God shall pick somebody who has ruach, spirit. And the Hamek Hadavar, the commentary, says he must be independent in his views and not drawn after urges for his own self-pleasure or that of others. The body is controlled, consists of a ruach and a guf, a spirit and a body. The body encompasses the physical things. The ruach is the aspirations for higher things. So the object in life is to try to reach higher things so that life is worth something. So he says he wants a person who's not going to be following after his own material or physical desires, but higher desires, looking after others. And that is the key to leadership. For each of us can do some self-searching and ask ourselves, are we doing things for the benefit of our neighbors, our friends, of the world? It says in Pirkei Avos, who was rich? Hasomech bechelko, he who is satisfied with his portion. The word bechelko could be translated as not only his own portion, but rather somebody else's portion. You're satisfied with what somebody else has. That's the quality of a leader. Humility and self-sacrifice. Thank you for listening on behalf of the WebYeshiva.org. I wish everybody a Shabbat Shalom.